Testing. Nothing?
Test, 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 test. My name is Ashley. Okay. Yeah, I can hear, well, I can hear it out here. So, oh, she's.
No. Hello? Hello? Got it. You want me to sing? I can't sing. Hello? Test one. Test one. It's a little low. Like I'm kind of hovering over the mic. It's a little low. Hello? Hello? There we go. Hello? There you go. You good, Shelby? No? No? Yes? Hello? Shelby? I can't see you. 1, 2, 3, 1, 4, 6, 7. All right, good.
Okay, let me show you something. This is going to stay hot.
Okay.
Right here, you can turn up the volume or lower the volume.
Okay.
This is turned up and this is turned down.
Okay.
So you don't have to get right on it.
Okay. So it'll be like right back here.
But because she's live streaming and could
Okay.
move.
Okay. All right. All right. Thank you. All right. Test. Test. forget to tell y'all. Tina, Tina bought, Tina bought me this jacket. Thank you. It fits me well, but it's
That way. What? No, I'm staying.
Test.
try to catch these things when you hang them, so you take the time and just get them on there.
Long speech.
Good morning, everybody. That's Jay. We're going to get started. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Welcome to Horseshoe Bend National Military Park. Difficult day to commemorate today, but commemorating the 212th anniversary of the Battle of Horseshoe Bend. Means a lot that everybody is here and to have such a large delegation from Muskogee Creek Nation. We also, from Muskogee Creek Nation, have some donuts and waters and drinks in the back. Please make yourself welcome. Our Master of Ceremonies, Niaga Warrior, and National Council Representative Galen Cloud.
212 years ago, on this very ground beneath our feet, a battle was fought. The Creek War, an internal conflict, a civil war between the upper and lower towns in the United States. Here on the banks of the Tallapoosa River, our ancestors stood, warriors, sons. Behind them stood elders and children. They came here to defend our way of life behind a great barricade built of logs and earth. Stretching across the bend of the river, they made their stand. Hanyawat. Punjogorat. Idawala legi dundo. Idawala ichki geji dundundui. Hanyawat oji abo wa idalwa. Hanyawari dahoknis. Hoglazba. Out of respect for our mother ground, to Nyaka, we asked them to put their dahoknis up first. Out of hundreds of tribal towns, six stood here together. Nuyaga, Idalwa. Upfuski, Idalwa. Ukjai, Idalwa. Yuvala, Idalwa. Salogoga, Idalwa. Hilabi, Idalwa. Warriors from these towns gathered here, determined to defend and protect at all costs. On this day, 212 years ago, the sounds of war filled this valley. Gunfire echoed across these hills. Smoke covered this river bend. When we look across this battlefield, we are not just looking at land. We are looking at sacred ground. We are looking at the tribal town of New Yaga. We are looking in the mirror at ourselves, and we feel the sacrifices made for us. Their sacrifices will never be forgotten. They stood. And because of them, the Muskogee Nation still stands. Just as the warriors fought here for our people, we'd like to call upon the Istijadi Hoktagi Solidawa to present the colors. Please stand if you're able. and be recognized. Nuyaga, Akfuski, Okjai, Uvala, Salagalga, Ilabi. Warriors from these towns gathered here, determined to defend and protect at all costs. On behalf of the Muskogee Nation, in partnership with the Horseshoe Bend National Memorial Park, we are honored to be here with you today. You may sit. Joseph Kadat Galen Cloud, my Joseph Kadundo. Anyuadi Jimalagi at Jinhumadat Jindakwile at that. Mado Omagak Jige Jagadun and Danaga Hagadat Muskogee man. Malegat man Oklege dun and Amelegate that it was ugly. Modondo. Nuyaga. Man, Amido dun do as and stop. It is an honor to serve you as your master of ceremonies. To those here with us in person and those joining us online, we thank you for being here to remember, to reflect, and to give honor to those that came before us. At this time, we would like to recognize the delegation that's with us today. When I call your name, please stand and remain standing. We ask the audience to hold the applause until all names have been called. Andrew Miller, Superintendent of National Park Service. Chief of the Muskogee Nation, Chief David Hill. Secretary of our Veterans, Muskogee Nation, Grover Wynn. Secretary of the Culture and Humanities, Ray Lynn Butler. Our National Council, Representative of the Okmulgee District, William Lowe. Representative of the Okmulgee District, Robin Whitecloud. Representative of the Muskogee District, Laura Harjo King. Representative of the Tikabutchee District, Anna Marshall. Representative of the Upfuskee District, Sandra Golden. Representative of the Creek District, Dodie Barnett. Miko and our Supreme Court Justice, George Thompson. Jeff Fife. Our Ambassador, Jonadev Chatterjee. If I missed anybody, I do apologize. Delegation for being here. We are honored for your presence. Thank you. While we gather to commemorate the battle that became part of our eventual removal from these lands, we also stand here to show the world our continued presence. We are still a sovereign nation, and we continue to operate as a government for our people. At this time, please help me welcome the Principal Chief of the Muskogee Nation, who represents the executive branch of our tribal government, Chief David W. Hill.
Miss Jay, good morning. There you go. There you go. The last couple of days has been very busy day. Visit several sites of the Muskogee Creek Nation. First day, the morning we went to Wetumpka, Alabama. Last place of Hickory Ground. That evening, yesterday evening, we came back here to honor our ancestors. Everything that Galen had mentioned, we discussed last night. Most of y'all that came to see the luminaries. I was talking to Representative Golden afterwards, and it's hard not to get emotional. Just knowing that the 6 tribal towns I was mentioned, my dad's mom was Nuyaka, member of Okfuskee. And to know that your ancestors during the battle, over 800 had died. And I was telling Representative Golden, it's hard to imagine what the elders were doing, what the women were doing. What they was trying to do to protect the little ones. And just think about the young warriors who's out there at the camp with their parents. Did they have sticks? Protect. You always got to wonder what actually really happened. As you well know, a lot of the history books don't tell you the true history. It's always asked, so what's your story? I never claimed to be a story. It's history of what happened. And history is hard to tell. It's hard to tell the real truth. As Galen had mentioned, you had several of the lower creeks fighting against the upper creek, their own relatives. You had a lot of the Cherokees fighting with the government to fight against us. It was mentioned a while ago there was 100 tribal towns, but only 6 was here. I had mentioned last night what would have happened if all 100 was here, all 100 tribal towns. I think history would have been different. But this is where we are today. And I want to thank the Park Service for their cooperation, their partnership since the 2000th anniversary. With Andrew, just met him last year when he first got here. We just happened to stop by, me and my chief of staff. That's the first time we had our first visit. And what he's done here with the assistance of Matt, we've known Matt for several years. Just knowing the history, just wanting to know our perspective of what really happened. In the same sense, Matt has educated us as well. But as Muskogee people, that's who we are. During the bad storm last year, about this time, the park closed down. Well, we even offered our assistance. And I do want to recognize 2 of the cemetery crew that are here. If they're here, raise your hand. Maybe standing way in the back. Those 2 gentlemen back here was here all week long, cutting all the wood, helping. And as you go down to the end of the horseshoe bend, you got to realize what really happened. While the warriors up here at the front fighting, the men, the elders, and the little children were at the camp. And just knowing that some of the other tribe that was helping the government had swam over across the river to get the canoes to go back. Some are buried probably in the here at Horseshoe Bend. One of the last battles that we had before going on the Trail of Tears. A lot of the schools that I have to talk to, the ones that are graduating or just to the little kids, I have to remind them, just a little bit over 18,000 made it to the Trail of Tears. And just one of them, just like this battle here, just one of my family members from New York had made it. That's the reason I'm here today. That's what I tell the youth. Just one of those that walked the Trail of Tears, one of the 18,000, that's the reason you're here today. So be proud of who you are. Be proud of your Muskogee. I also want to thank the Park Service for their cooperation, partnership. I think it's getting stronger every day. But to all those that come from Oklahoma, all those in the surrounding area that are Muskogee, we do have some here in Alabama. You are Muskogee. The same blood that ran through those 18,000, the blood that runs in you. So be proud of her. Mado makto yes.
But Chief Hill. And now, I'd like to welcome our council representative for the Dickabuchie District, Representative Anna Marshall.
Good morning, HK. Just like Chief said, we should be proud of who we are. And I have a friend named Sherman Alexie, and he used to always say it's a good day to be indigenous. Well, today is a good day to be Muskogee, and we should be proud to be Muskogee. I know that this has been really emotional for me to take all of this in, because my grandmother, her lineage comes from Halebi. And so as they were telling the story, it brought back a lot of memories for me of my grandmother, because my great-grandfather came from this place. And so when we look at ourselves, we have to realize that we talk about the strength of our nation, strength of our people. We talk about the perseverance that we had, and we have to look at that and know that that DNA flows through us. Because with all the battles that we have continued to fight beyond Horseshoe Bend, we have always persevered through that. And so as I looked at about how we've persevered in the past, I look at today. You know, we talk about the warriors. Well, we continue to be warriors, but in a different way. We're warriors of determination. We're warriors of diligence. And most of all, we have to be diligent. We have to be warriors of patience. And we know that patience sometimes it's hard to do, because we want everything to happen today. But look at us where we're at today. 212 years later, we're still here, and we're still fighting in a different way, but yet we're still here. And so we talk about the responsibilities of who we are today to honor the men that laid their lives down, the women, the children who died, and maybe they didn't even understand why they died. But we're here to live out that part of history that is so painful, but out of that pain, there can be good that comes out of it. And that good is all of us who are sitting here today. We're the good part of that. We continue to honor that legacy that they left. And we have to remember that anything that we honor of those who sacrificed so much for us to be able to be here today. So as I was going through the visitor center yesterday, it talked about the National Council, and that in 1799, it was formed. Really, basically, the purpose was for the U.S. expansion. And they wanted us to, the National Council, to be the one that would be that, I guess, that catalyst to make that happen. And what we found out is that it started conflict. But they tried to do their best to work at peace with the U.S. And sometimes we find ourselves doing the very same thing today, trying to be the peacemakers and trying to, and at the same time, maintaining that leadership role that we were elected to do. And as citizens of this nation, we're still called to do that as well. And so as we move forward, I looked at how we are today as a national council, and I look at the past of what they were. And we're still charged with the responsibility. I serve on the Land, Natural Resources, and Cultural Preservation Committee, as Representative Cloud is our chair, Representative Barnett is a member of that committee, as well as Representative White Cloud. And we also have the people who manage our money and our finances. We have Representative Lowe, who is on Business, Finance, and Justice, and Sandra Golden, who is on Business, Finance, and Justice. And we also have Laura Harjo King, who is a member of Health, Education, and Welfare. And so from the LNC, we use that as a short synonym, that we have a responsibility for oversight of the land in Oklahoma. But we also have a responsibility to the cultural resources as well, and also protection of cultural sites. And so when I was named to that committee, I didn't quite know what that responsibility was until I came here. And then I realized the immense responsibility that's placed on the National Council of today for our responsibility that we have to carry forth. And so I would just like to close. But before I do that, I just want to say that yesterday was the battle that happened. Today is what was left. And when I looked at those luminaries last night, and I saw all of them, I mean, it really, I did not know how to take that in. And I don't know how you felt, but to me, it was just like that many, and no one, but they just laid out there. So today, they're out there. Last night, we felt their spirits that were continuing to fight that battle. And we should have left there last night feeling their presence, feeling that spirit that is still there and that lives in us. And so today, as we remember, today is a day that was just as bad as it was yesterday. It still continues to, it should reminisce with us each and every day that we had people who were left out there and no one took care of them. And so I would just like to close with Speaker Hicks wanted to leave some words with all those who are present today. And these are the words of Speaker Hicks. Good morning. I want to begin by extending my warmest greetings to everyone gathered today for the Horseshoe Bend commemoration. It is truly an honor to recognize this important day, and I regret that I'm unable to be there with you in person. Please accept my sincere apologies for my absence. I had every intention of attending, as this commemoration holds deep meaning for our people and our shared history. Horseshoe Bend represents not only a significant moment in our past, but also the resilience, strength, and perseverance of our ancestors who endured so much to ensure that we would still be here today. While I cannot stand with you physically, my thoughts are with you as you gather to reflect, to remember, and to honor those who came before us. Their courage and sacrifice continue to guide us, reminding us all of who we are and the responsibility we carry to preserve our culture, language, and traditions for future generations. As Speaker of the National Council, I remain committed to supporting efforts that honor our history and strengthen our people. Today, as we gather at Horseshoe Bend, I hope you feel the unity, pride, and purpose that comes from remembering our past together. Thank you for allowing me to share these words, and please know that I am with you in spirit. I look forward to joining you at future commemorations. Mado, and may you all have a meaningful and respectful gathering. Mado.
Thank you for those words, Representative Marshall. those words brought back some things that I know all of us thought about yesterday as we were standing on the battlefield. 212 years ago, when the smoke cleared and our ancestors walked to find a new home. They thought that they did away with the Muskogee people. On that walk, that's what they tried. But as you see here today, all the Muskogee people who are here, as Chief said a while ago, we are those seeds from those people. Strong people who endured so we could be here today. They thought that they were going to do away with our fires, our language, our way of life, but it still thrives and it still burns bright as ever in Oklahoma. So thank you for those words, Representative. Thank you. As we move along, this land, this park, if you didn't know, this is the original New Yaga tribal town, a living town with the Muskogee Nation today. New Yaga is the daughter of Ogiabova and shares kinship with Upfuski. At this time, please welcome Mr. Bondier, representative of the New Yaga tribal town, to provide a historical reflection.
Mado. Sale dida ko mongin ihin mika gidwakta hanyu iti huma wili pona ya. Amadik tani tsodo angin haji hangi angi hanyu i pomo brane bitirana sakai hostidon. Imo haga samakto angin hanyu i amadik tani zakta mika gidwakta madojike zakaido. About a month ago, a little over a month ago, the people that put this together from Creek Nation had asked me to come up here and talk. But and I agreed to it. So before I get started into part of my speech, I'd like to thank the Mikos of the ceremonial grounds that are letting me speak before them. The reason I say that is that these Mikos that we have here today are here for a lifetime. We have one Miko here that's 50 years as a Miko of a ceremonial ground, and that's Ogiabova. I think he's close to 60 maybe. We have time, and they conduct business as they usually do throughout the year. But coming here, I can't really say that I was happy to come here or anything like that, but I had a lot of deep thoughts coming into my mind. I did not know whether I could say that I'm very happy to be here, because I'm not, and I'm an ancestor, I guess, but when I look at it, my father was New Yaga. You follow your mother's ground. My mother's ground is Quashadi, Alabama Quashadi. But my father being New Yaga, my grandma being New Yaga, and so on. My parents' relationships with all the other New Yaga people and everything died out there in the battlefield. So it's real close to me when I come here to see all this. When we talk about sacred ground, that is sacred ground. When we talk about grounds, when we talk about battles, wars, and things like that, it can be ugly, not only in this war, but in the wars that came after, whether it be overseas or here in the United States with Native people. It's very ugly. People got hurt that shouldn't have got hurt. One of the questions that I asked was women and children that were killed here, that died here. Some of them were shot going across the river as they were getting away as little kids. Some of the women were shot in the water as they were going back across. Does that constitute a battle? I don't know. And what I'm saying here is that these are history and stuff that was told to me as I was growing up. And I know that a lot of the people, a lot of the government, the federal government, they decide who becomes Indian and who's not by seeking federal recognition, state recognition, or whatever it may be. And a lot of people get their information from places like this as we talk. They get this information and they go back and then they make it their own. And when they make it their own, they start shooting for federal recognition. This is not what this is all about. It's about the history of what took place here, the true history from Native people. The history that I talk about will not be put in books, has not been put in books, because you will never hear anything like that. You'll always hear about how many people died, and that's it. I was talking to one of the rangers here that I said, how many people died after the war in the U.S. side? And he said over 100 people died after. And I told him, I said, you know, I was told as a little boy that our people, when they went to war, we dealt with snakes sometimes, different types of snakes. And my father was a medicine man. When he was little, they said that he would go and visit people, but he would carry a snake around his neck. When he went to go visit, he knew the people would be afraid of that snake. So he would go to that tree and he would let that snake go, and that snake would go up that tree and he would go visit. And then when he come back and got ready to leave, he would go to that tree and he would hit that tree and that snake would come down and he would take it with him. So when our people dealt with nature and used the environment and things like that, you know, that's who we were as Native people. All around here was our teacher. That's who we were, because that's where we went to learn. So when I talk about these snakes, the men, when they went to war, they would what they would do before the war started is that they would have a piece of meat and they would tease these poison snakes like copperheads, water moccasins, whatever it may be, and they would pick at that piece of meat. And after they picked on that meat and all the poison got into that meat, they would get their arrows as they walked by and they would stab that piece of meat and go on into battle. So when somebody got grazed with an arrow, you can almost guarantee they're going to die a week later. So the war might have happened that day, but for them, they died a few days later. So our history is unique in a way because we studied nature in order to live, and when that's how we existed. That's who we are as Stewardship people. Some of the things that we do at our ceremonial grounds back home in Oklahoma is that even the ribbon dance, when they're dancing and everything, we tell them dashkush, dashkimungus, which means jump, keep jumping. Yikchit huizlimungus, stand strong, keep going. A lot of people don't know, but that dance is symbolic to war. They go in a circle, but they go in a line as they're going in a circle. They have some grounds up front. The head women, they carry what they call a dasha, or a knife. It's made out of wood. That's symbolic to the war clubs that we had. They carry it and they go up front and they dance in these circles, and the others follow. In the military, some people call that the point man. So when our people went to war, they went to war in a line, something like this, not in a group like this. When they went like this, we followed each other's footsteps. So they did not know how many people were out there. So if there was 10 people that were walking and then walking in each other's footsteps, the cavalry would say, it looks like maybe 10 people maybe walking or something. They would get there and there may be 40 or 50 people because they walked in each other's footsteps. Those are some of the strategies and strategic things that we used to do as Native people here. So like Chief Hill was talking about, because some of our people survived, we're here today. And they always tells us, Yikchit huizlimungus, at our stomp grounds, our dances, we dance all night. They keep telling us, Yikchit huizlimungus. When we say that, in the morning time, we're getting tired. We're all worn out. We took medicine all day. We dancing all night. and come morning time, you're dragging, but people are giving you words of encouragement to keep on going, not only in your dance, but I'm sure that encouragement was given to us on the walk of what they call today as the Trail of Tears. The Trail of Tears was not a happy walk. It was not something that you can get your sandwich out and sit under a tree and eat. It was a hard walk. It was a hard march. Our people died on that march. There was something in the paper that are not the paper, but on the internet that I read here a while back. There was an old man that they had interviewed. He said he was a little boy when he marched on that trail. When he got here, there was no more kids to play with. That's how hard this trail was. Like the chief saying, a lot of our people that lived, maybe 18,000 or whatever the number was and everything, those are the people that survived. And we are still standing here today. Because of that encouragement of Yikchi Wilimungus, stand strong. That's who we are today. So for letting me come out here, there was a lot of things that I wanted to cover, but I wasn't able to because I know that we got a timeline and I don't want to interfere in somebody else's speech or anything. But we as Muskogee people that come here, we are the original landlords of this country. And I would like to thank the caretakers of our land, the rangers, the park rangers that are here. I thank you very much. You take care of some of our grounds that are here, and we appreciate that. And being of Nuyaka descendant, I most appreciate what you guys have done for us here. So in closing, I would like to say, we may have fought and back home, we're over 100,000 people strong. So Madojuge Zakaido, Yikchi Wizimunga.
Hello, Bob, for those words. Now, we are honored to hear from one of our 4 original mother towns of the Muskogee people. Moy hanyawat ya bombona izat umikagi dat fulagat hanyawat dat hangya lagi don when Ojabova Manidawa Malinmiko Modondo hanyawat Kusamiko George Thompson.
Hello, Galen. Welcome, everybody. My name's George Thompson. I'm sure most of you people heard the name before, Gozamiko. Having a leadership role at Hickory Ground today, yesterday, and today, I made a point that I would be here because I know 2 of my tribal daughter towns were involved in that battle. You know, this morning, y'all heard, a lot of history about this place here. So what I'm going to try to do this morning is to relate to you people as to how Hickory Ground came about and also how it came to be the mother town. First of all, I'm going to start with how Hickory Ground came to be. This is not something that I read in a history book or anything like that. What I'm going to relate to you is what I heard from my elders, my uncle. from what he told me was that back in the days when Hickory Ground, before it was called Coastal, in other words, coastal town. And from what he told me, that when it went underwater, the people at the ground had to think of another name for the ground. And it just so happened that they were meeting underneath hickory trees. While the meeting was going on, a hickory nut fell from the tree, and they seen it fall on the ground. And that's where the name came from, hickory ground. So, and next thing I want to talk about is how Ojibwa came to be mother towns. Back in the days, the tribal towns had hunting parties. They had to go a long ways to, to provide for their families. And from what I was told, that they had enough people that were capable to maintain their own sacred fires. So they came back to the mother ground and asked for permission. And that's when taken by the group to form their own tribal towns. And Okpuski was one of them. And the other one was New York. We always heard that from the elders that these two tribal towns are your daughter towns. And today whatever was told back in the days, that today we still carry on our way of life, cultural and traditional way of life. We have our language, our songs that were created for us by the Creator. And today, I feel like Bonnie said, but glad to be here and see some of the people that, we had to come a long ways to see each other, in other words. Well, anyway, through the eyes of our Creator, we made this long journey to be here. And as we walk on the footsteps of the ones that are gone, and as we speak our language, I truly believe our ancestors are listening to us today. So having said that, I want to say Mado for allowing me to be part of the program. Thank you.
Mado Miko, Wimbunatsat. Mado, for your presence and for your words. Mado. In 2023, the Muskogee Nation established a department dedicated to overseeing cultural, language, and preservation. This work is vital, ensuring that our identity remains strong for future generations. And now, please help me welcome the Secretary of our Culture and Humanities Department, Ms. Ray Lynn Butler.
Stongo, Raylan Butler, Jahojivkados, Amalegida, Watkogi, Almadowa, Pecan Tallahassee. Good morning, everyone. On this somber occasion, a day of commemoration for one of the most difficult chapters in our nation's history, it's important that we uphold the values and traditions of the Muskogee people. Athak Gwechida, respect, humility, Iyaskida, Mijogi, responsibility, Iyaskida, humility, Hobothinga, wisdom, and last but not least, Anogichka, love. My heart is heavy, knowing how many lives were lost on this land. Seeing the luminaries light up last night on the battlefield made the weight of those casualties real. And yet, I'm so proud of their courage, their sacrifice, and their endurance. The stand they made here kept our way of life going, strong enough that the next 10 generations continued to carry and protect our sacred fires. They kept our culture and language alive despite unthinkable circumstances. That same warrior spirit they carried onto the battlefield, willing to fight to the death for our people, it still exists today. I've seen it firsthand at our ceremonial grounds. I saw it in my great-grandparents, my grandparents, my parents, my aunts, my uncles. My dad was deeply dedicated, and he always stressed to us, the sacred fire, our original way of life, it's of utmost importance, and you must take it as serious as life and death. Our ancestors taught us this, and it goes back thousands of years. If the fires go out, we may cease to exist as Muskogee people. We have a responsibility to care for it, and being here inspires me to keep going. I know the tribal towns who fought on that battlefield, they knew that message. They were willing to fight and die to protect our way of life. This sacred responsibility was passed on to every one of us from them who were here. Today, we are still strong. We will not back down from our moral and ethical responsibility to protect our ancestors, our culture, our language, our history, our art, and our sacred lands. Muskogee Nation has always advocated for tribal sovereignty, and we will continue to do so, strengthening our government-to-government relationships with local, county, state, and federal partners every day by ensuring that Muskogee Nation has a seat at the table, that our history is told, that our language and culture are preserved for future generations. We look forward to the day a monument stands in honor of our Muskogee people here at this park, and we'll continue working to make that a reality. Mado Kenneth Johnson for your vision and help to make this happen for our people. Mado to the ceremonial grounds and your leadership, thank you for being here. I'm also happy to see my Miko here from Peach Ground, here for the first time. Mado to our Muskogee Nation leadership and the National Council for your support. Mado to the Department of Culture and Humanities, Deputy Secretary Beaver, Frida Fields, Miko Bill Proctor, and Chubb for your leadership and assistance organizing this year's commemoration. Mado to our cemetery crew, our senior archaeologists, and our Historic and Culture Preservation Department for your work assisting with tornado damage recovery this past week. You have done an incredible job. Mado for protecting our sacred lands. Mado to the Hambara Hayogi for serving and cooking a traditional meal for the park yesterday. At this time, I'd like to ask Muskogee Riders, the Men's Honor Guard, and the Women's Mado for your service, and Mado for posting the colors and for escorting us to the park. It's an honor to have you with us. Mado to those who help set up booths, for our departments who come to help provide outreach. And a special shout out to justiceforhickoryground.com for being here today. And especially to those who help us live stream and document this important commemoration. And finally, Mado to the National Park Service for showing respect to our people and for being faithful stewards of this sacred place. Mado to everyone for being here. Mado Jigejas Barigos.
Mado Raylin for those words. I would like to, on that note, if you are a veteran, would you please stand and be recognized, please? We thank you for your service. We thank you for answering the call. We thank you for being here. Mado. As Muskogee people, we have always served our nation and our country. The warrior spirit has never left us, just as our ancestors defended our continue to defend and protect today. Please welcome at this time the Secretary of Veterans Affairs for the Muskogee Nation, Mr. Grover Wynn.
Good morning. First off, I want to thank Ray Lenham for letting me be a part of this. As Chief Hill said, this is a very touching moment, not only as a Muskogee citizen, but as a Muskogee veteran. I want to start out by saying, we didn't lose. We're still here. Driving through some areas yesterday, as Chief Hill mentioned, I seen some of our homeland, and I visualized how it might have been back then. I visualized how great it might have been for our ancestors. Yesterday, looking down at the battlefield, feeling the anxiety, feeling the anger of the massacre, there was pride in me. The pride of the warriors who fought and gave their lives, protecting not only their tribe, not only their nation, not only their town, but their elders, their women, and their children. I might add, too, in our history books, it's never told about our women warriors. We have women warriors. What's not told in the history books many times is in a battle, the women would go hide the children and come back and stand right beside the men and fight the battle. So I salute all you women warriors also. They were facing the odds, 3-1, but they never gave up. I had quite a few things I want to say. As Bon was saying, you know, there's a lot of things that I would like to say, but I just want to say again, I am proud to be a Muskogee citizen, Muskogee veteran, and it's an honor to be here and be part of this gathering. I want to read a few things for you, if I may, before I get into some of my sentiments, if you will. During the early 20th century, Joseph K. Dixon wrote, "The Indian, though a man without a country, the Indian who suffered 1,000 wrongs, considered the white man's burden, and from mountains, plains, and divides. The Indian threw himself into the struggle to help throttle the unthinkable oppression of the Hun. The Indian helped to free Belgium, helped to free all the small nations, helped to give victory to the Stars and Stripes. The Indian went to France to help avenge the rage of dictatorships. Our people, always serving. As my brother said, always serving. In 1776, when George Washington began to lose the war, he began to enlist and write letters to the native tribes for enlisting Native Americans for his army, his navy. As a Native American, we have contributed significantly to the defense of this nation. In our tours through our museum in Okmulgee, I tell sometimes when we have the children come through, I said, you know, the War of 1812 might have been a little bit different if we had served the British instead of the United States. Native Americans have been known as some of the most fierce, most ferocious fighters for the United States. And we fought in every major war and skirmish for over 200 years. We fought with, we have fought for, and we have fought against this country. And this was even for a lot of times before we even considered to be citizens. Our warriors are known and have been known for their unyielding defense of our land, and we see it here. Knowing they were fully outnumbered. As Chief said a while ago, you know, you wonder what went through their minds. We're outnumbered 3-1, but they had spirit. I want to touch on something else that was brought up yesterday. There was a question asked, what happened to our people that were here? So oftentimes in battle and war, the bodies are left there. In World War I, War II, they dug ditches to cover it up. They didn't do that for us. But you know what? As I forgot who it was said, their spirit is still down there protecting our lands. We're here because of them. From the Revolutionary War through Civil War, to the beaches of Normandy on D-Day, to the present-day conflicts, our Native Americans have defended this country for centuries. We had a reputation as fearless fighters. We had a reputation as hit-and-run tactics. We had an ability to survive in the most harsh conditions, and we would fight to death. During the Civil War, 20,000 Native Americans served with the Union services, both at sea and on the land. World War II, although not eligible for the draft, roughly 12,000 Native Americans served, even before we were citizens, a man without a country. World War II, 350,000 Native Americans in the country, 45,000 of them enlisted, making them the highest rate of ethnic groups in fighting that war. The Korean conflict, 15,000 Native Americans served. Vietnam era, my era, more than 42,000 Native Americans served. And where I want to go with this is during the Vietnam era, if any of you Vietnam vets out, you'll know what I'm talking about. If you didn't go to college, you didn't have an influential parent, you were drafted and you went to Vietnam. Of the 42,000 Native Americans serving in Vietnam, 82% volunteered to go to Vietnam. 82%. I mentioned earlier our hit-and-run tactics. Ho Chi Minh, the president of North Vietnam at that time, was educated in the U.S. He was educated at Stanford. But while he was here, he studied the tactics of the Native Americans. He was so impressed with our tactics because we were outnumbered, we were outmanned, we were outgunned. But he studied us because of the fearlessness we had, of the tactics we had. Those of you from Vietnam know it was a war. It was attack and hide, because many times they'd be outnumbered too. Even now, we continue to serve in high numbers. Oftentimes, I want to mention this before I go further. A shout out to our women veterans. Approximately 20% of all Native service members are women. This rate is higher for our Native women. It's around 17%. So often, Brother Lowe can attest to this, maybe Brother George. We're asked, why do you serve the very country? We're here to serve our families, our elders, our culture, and our nations. Yes, we've suffered a lot, but we're still here. One of our native Vietnam vets told me one time, he said, even though the U.S. broken its treaty promises, we're more honorable than that. We honor our commitments, and we'll always serve to keep this country safe. Warriors, we call our natives warriors. Why? Because a soldier is one who's taught to take command. A warrior is one who's taught to protect their communities. A warrior is a person who is specialized in combat or war. A warrior is one who shows or has great courage or aggressiveness. A warrior is one who sacrificed himself for the good of others. But a warrior's role is more than fighting. They do everything to ensure their people's survival. Their task is to take care of the elderly, the defenseless, those who cannot provide. Again, we believe it's our duty to serve this land because it's home. Honor and love for our homeland. I could go into so much more, but again, I know there's other things to do today because I am so proud of our veterans. Again, when we think of our native veterans, we think of their spirit, their confidence, their agility, their endurance, and their warrior character and their ethics. I'm proud to be standing here on the lands that our ancestors fought to keep. And I want to say, we don't fight because we hate. We fight because we love our country. We didn't lose. We lost, or we left because we fought different. We fight different rules. We believe in honor in battle. We don't believe in destroying an entire village, elders and children for strategy. We didn't lose. We didn't lose. Again, we're still here. Our Muskogee Riders, their slogan, as you've seen in the vests, is going the last mile. And that's what we will do as veterans. We will go the last mile for our nation. Thank you very much. Bless you, and have a great day.
Thank you, Mr. Wynn, for those words. I know we've heard from many strong voices this morning, and I appreciate and send it out to everybody who's standing out here and being with us today. At this time, as I shared earlier, our tribal government remains active and sovereign. Just as the Department of Culture and Humanities represents us in many ways, the nation also has someone who represents us in many other capacities. At this time, please welcome the ambassador of the Muskogee Nation and a fellow New York warrior, Mr. Jonathan Chatterjee.
Hello, Representative Cloud. John Dev Chowdhury Jifkados, Amaligada, Nugazogi, Dolwa, Nyaka. Those of you that know me, I don't get nervous that often, but sitting before our Mikos, my chief, our council, our warriors, our women, our matriarchs, I am nervous, so please bear with me. I'd like to echo the many thanks that Secretary Butler gave to everyone here, as well as Chief, and thank the Department of Culture and Humanities for inviting me. Hats off to Deputy Secretary Beaver for all the work he's done under Secretary Butler's leadership with the whole team to make today possible. He reached out to me to ask if I'd be willing to speak about commemoration to responsibility. And I thought it was a perfect theme to talk about the contradictions we're all part of today. I was very pleased to hear Secretary Butler talk about some of the sacred values of our people. Humility, respect, love. Anagitchka, she's asleep, but every time she hears Anagitchka, her ears perk up. Those are what have kept us together. When Secretary Wind said, "It shall be ours again today," I want to say that that is inevitable because it must be ours again. But that should concern to anybody who's not Muskogee Creek. Necessarily mean a literal recapture of this territory. What it means to me, and I think to so many others, a recapturing of the values that are represented by today's commemoration. And what are those values? What are those values that we as natives and non-natives alike must embrace to have a shared future or any future? Those values are connectedness and responsibility. You know, we talk about the events that led to the massacre here at Horseshoe Bend, and we do call it a massacre, as we've talked about many times. The tactics that were employed here were not part of a civilized community. We're not part of a civilized set of values. Why were the grounds, the 6 towns, seeking refuge here at Horseshoe Bend? Well, we all know for well over a year prior to Horseshoe Bend, Andrew Jackson was on an uncivilized rampage. It was a rampage designed to extract land and territory and resources and power from the entire southeastern part of the United States. That rampage included burning unprotected villages throughout the entire Muskogee Nation. It included attacking women and children, and it included destroying food stores of our people. That's why the grounds were here seeking protection as Andrew Jackson's volunteers and his militia and some cavalry were reaping destruction throughout the lands. The folks here were starving. Even the men, we talk about the men and the warriors that were here, they were starving. The massacre was not just of women and children, as terrible as that was. It was a massacre of emaciated men who wanted nothing more than to protect the Muskogee way of life. And what is the Muskogee way of life? The Upper Creeks were fighting to protect a sense of interconnectedness that underpinned our entire way of being. However, Muskogee Nation, the Muskogee people, in many of the towns, had been facing settlement forces, chattel slavery way of life. Many tribal towns, many Lower Creek towns, but some Upper Creek had adopted slavery in their own lands. But beyond that, they had chosen leadership based on not our clan systems, but on necessity to deal with the American government. There was a war of values that had been at play within our people that led to this moment here. The Upper Creek towns that were here were fighting to protect our sense of interconnectedness and our clan systems and our form of not just government, but belief systems. And it's that form of government that truly formed our nation before the formation. I'm so glad that Representative talked about the formation of our National Council in 1799. That was a creation of a system that was put on place of an existing clan system that existed since time immemorial. The towns, the Upper Creek towns that were here were fighting to preserve that. Let me talk about why that's so important. That clan system believed in duality. There were white clans and red clans, as I've been taught. There were peace clans and war clans. There were also peace towns and war towns. And as I've been taught, and I'm always willing to be corrected by my Neoka brothers and sisters, Neoka was a peace town. Neoka was a peace town. But in times of war, Neoka, through responsibility, would lend its warriors and lend its hands to the war towns. Just like the clans, we had war clans and peace clans with their own sacred spheres of authority, one to act in times of war, one to act in times of peace. The people that sacrificed here 212 years ago were part of that interconnectedness and that responsibility and that understanding that whatever role we have is part of something larger than any of us individually. Any town that we're part of is part of something that's larger than any of our towns individually. They understood that. What is a warrior? What are the matriarchs? We certainly are fierce warriors in battle when need be, but a warrior also builds the arbors that shelter us. The warrior also takes care of our young ones. Kusamiko talked about learnings from his uncle. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the clan system, it was your maternal uncle that was responsible for teaching the ways of responsibility and interconnectedness and everything you are as a Muskogee person. It was this interconnectedness that drove not just our belief system, not just our political system, but just our day-to-day life. Our warriors here weren't here to go to battle. Our warriors were simply protecting our people. Our Homdadahayas were cooking not to feed war, but to feed our spirit and feed who we are. Yet we were attacked. And what were we attacked for? We were attacked because we were the last resistance to a seismic clash of values. One individualistic, one based on power being used to extract resources, and another based on interconnectedness, on clanship, on kinship, and an understanding that we're all part of something greater than just who we are. That was what was being fought over today. And as so many of us have said, we're still here. But we must win this continuing battle of values. In this increasingly chaotic world, the values that our Upper Creek warriors and women fought for are the only path forward: interconnectedness and responsibility. So it's not our Muskogee people who are the only ones who have to thank these warriors who died on the battlefield today. Every single human being, the Boyafikcha, the Doka, the fire, the spirit of what folks were fighting for today. I want to talk very briefly about this idea of red sticks. I've heard many times, and it's in most books, that the red sticks were called red sticks because of their red clubs, or the sticks that counted maybe ball stick points. But if you think about red towns and white towns, and if you think about red clans and white clans, and the interconnectedness that we have as both warriors and peacemakers, as both nurturers and fighters, you'll understand that being a red stick is part of our collective survival. People talk about Tecumseh visiting this area, visiting our villages, and creating this intertribal resistance to non-Indian culture. I always point out, although Tecumseh was Shawnee, his mother was Muskogee. And if your mother's Muskogee, you are Muskogee. And Tecumseh was Muskogee. The values he was talking about us collectively working together in a time of challenges to our ways of life, that came from Muskogee values. That came from who we are. And this is important as we forge a path forward in history. The founding framers of the United States studied Native governmental systems. I know a lot of folks talk, rightly so, about the role that the Haudenosaunee, the Iroquois, played in the structure of the United States. But those framers, including Ben Franklin, also studied the clan relationships, the town relationships, the separation of powers between towns, the separation of powers among clans, the responsibilities that we had in an interconnected way as they forged their government. Yet our way stood in the way of the expansion of U.S. lands and power. And that's why we had to be fought, and that's why we had to be destroyed, and that's why so many of us were starving and finding refuge in these lands 212 years ago today. But I submit it's that very concept of interconnectedness that is the only way to understand the world today as a path forward. And that is something that's represented in the fires and the spirit that are still on that field today and are in the hearts of our Mikos and our chief and so many of us. So we have an opportunity here. We talk about responsibility. Commemoration of a massacre isn't just taking responsibility for the past. Commemoration is not to make any individual feel personally responsible for the horrors of their great-great-grandfathers or their great-great-great brigadier general forefather whose plaque may still sit on the family mantle. Instead, when we talk about responsibility, we must talk about what do these lessons mean for us today and what's our responsibility moving forward. So as we think about today's lessons, I want to make it clear that this was part of an ongoing struggle of values. Our warriors, our matriarchs, simply wanted to live. They didn't bring the battle to the United States. The United States was brought to them. And I know I'm not alone in thinking about some of the more surreal moments of being here. And I'm so glad that Secretary Wind talked about how this has always been our home and the reasons for Stajati's service in the military. Because when I hear the national anthem, as proud as I am of many attributes of the United States today, when I hear the national anthem played here, it brings to bear some natural contradictions that I'm sure ran through everybody's minds. When I think about the fact that the Upper Creeks, who were fighting to preserve our way of life, fought against Lower Creeks, as well as many Cherokees. And we, regardless of which side you fought on, everybody got removed to Oklahoma. And we still have healing to do today. That is a contradiction that tangles the mind. When I think about the fact that our nation exists as a powerful sovereign within a state that doesn't recognize our sovereignty, and today we have to fight the same battles that we've always fought, yet we're here lending help when a tornado strikes. That's a contradiction that tangles the mind. And to think about the caretakers of these lands with the most beautiful hearts sitting before us, being the superintendent and the deputy superintendent of the National Park Service, who are part of the Department of the Interior that oversees rocks and trees and water and land, all natural resources, with the exception of one human group, Native Americans. That's a contradiction to me. Yet the contradiction still produces beauty, and the beauty is greatest caretakers we have of these lands are sitting before us here in the National Park Service. We thank them for that. But history is never simple. History is full of contradictions. Our responsibility, our job is to take the messages from a very complicated history and ask ourselves, what lessons must we learn? What lessons must we carry forward to not be a subject and a victim of history, but to use history to protect our children and their children and their children? So I will close today with, again, a thanks for being asked to talk about from commemoration to responsibility. But I'll close with a request. As we leave here today, let us please ask ourselves, what are we responsible for? We can look on that battlefield and say they were responsible for this massacre. They were responsible for the inhumanity, the inhuman approach to war that they conducted. Or we could say, I am responsible for my future and our future, and we are responsible for our future. Together, we are all responsible. Mado for this opportunity, and Mado to those lost. Thank you for your spirit and your fire and your heart. Mado. Blessings.
I've seen our ambassador, Jonadev, out at New York on the battlefield, I guess you could say, out there holding one of these sticks. To see you in Capitol Hill in those chambers, I know that you take those warrior spirit that you have with you from New York there, and it makes us proud. Thank you, sir. As we move toward the closing of today's program, none of this will be possible without the partnership and stewardship of this park. We thank the National Park Service for their continued commitment to this place and its history. we thank you. At this time, please help me welcome the superintendent, Mr. Andrew Miller, for the closing remarks.
Thank you, everyone. Very hard to follow. I want to thank all the speakers that came before me today. It's incredibly moving. Good morning, and welcome back. Today we gather to reflect on the enduring impact of the Battle of Horseshoe Bend, a moment 212 years ago that shaped not only the trajectory of the United States, but forever altered the lives, the lands, and the future of the Muskogee Creek Nation. This is not a simple story of a battle or a battlefield. It is a story of people, of community, of sovereignty, and of profound loss. On March 27th, 1814, along a bend of the Tallapoosa River, more than 3,000 U.S. soldiers, militia, with Allied Creek and Cherokee forces under Andrew Jackson, attacked the fortified Muskogee village of Tohotka. By the end of the day, over 800 Red Stick warriors, defenders, including elders, women, and children, were killed. It remains one of the deadliest days in American history. For the United States, this battle marked a turning point. It helped secure American control over much of the southeastern frontier. It elevated Andrew Jackson to national prominence, setting him on a path to become the president. And it contributed directly to the expansion of the United States into lands that had long been home to indigenous peoples. But for the Muskogee people, the consequences were devastating. In the months that followed, the Treaty of Fort Jackson forced the Muskogee Nation to cede more than 20 million acres of homelands. This included not only those who had fought against the United States, but also those who had allied with it. This loss fractured communities, disrupted life ways, and marked the beginning of a painful era of dispossession. The story does not end in 1814, because this story is one of resilience. The Muskogee people endured. Traditions were carried on. Their language, the guiding force of telling the stories and preserving their perspectives, pushed their identity forward, even through the loss of everything. Learned that when the removal happened, they were told that no one should ever come back here to this place. But today, as we all sit here, the Muskogee remain sovereign nation, has been said, rooted in the same resilience the ancestors gave them. They forged a new path forward, and we're glad to see so many come back today. So why do we remember Horseshoe Bend? We remember not to celebrate conflict, but to honor those who lived, fought, and died here. We remember to acknowledge the complexity of our shared history, a history that includes courage, sacrifice, injustice, and loss. Commemoration calls us to something deeper than memory. It calls us to respect. Respect for preserving this important place and places like this. Respect for our shared history. Respect for the Muskogee people whose ancestors stood at Tohotka to defend their homeland. Respect for the generations who survived displacement and continue to sustain their culture today. And respect for the land itself, which holds these stories and only asks for us to listen. Let us choose to remember with honesty. Let us choose to commemorate with humility. Let us choose to move forward with a commitment to understanding and recognizing that the legacy of Horseshoe Bend is not confined to the past, but continues to shape relationships, identities, and responsibilities today. In honoring this history, we honor the people who were here. In the act of remembrance, we take one small step forward, a more respectful and truthful telling of our shared American history. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Miller, for those words. Thank you very much. Will the Park Service please stand? The staff of the Park Service. Back home, as Bond talked a while ago, we say Mado. Mado, Malgaktat. Jige don't do as Timolezi go die, don't do. But G may don't die. We tell you Mado, we tell you thank you. It doesn't seem enough, but that's what we offer. Thank you. Thank you. Well, that brings us to the end of today's agenda. Mado to everybody who spoke today. Mado to our Mikos, Chief Hill, to everybody who's here today. Our Muskogee people who are from this land, who are still here. Thank you for being here. And as I iterated a while ago, Mado just don't seem enough, but we thank you. To our veterans, to our women veterans who are standing in the back, thank you for posting our colors. Thank you for our Muskogee employees who are here today. We thank you for being here. I was told if you are able to join us this evening at 6:30 we will have the luminary event down here, back down below the hill. If you are able to come back, so we invite you for that. In closing, Miklagi, Bumida Wadat, Puntugodat, Hanuari Yazagada, Mado that Jigazagidunda, Lanaga Hago, Wagak Mo, ya Yazagitsat, Umiko Mo Legan. There's a guy, Umbadaha, the man, Jimmy Dawad and Doat, Yamoya, Yazagitsat, Mado that Jigazidunda. Baksange Humbadaha that Nagides, Bunalezagat, Nagides, Anaskamo Hayagat, Mado, Bojigeze there. Baksange ya, you're fully out. Boomerstagides. There's a guy. Didibu Yagangi, Yahizia. Medzoga. Hanyuat, Idalwadat, Injawalakadat, Isfully Jazagin, Dagi as you meet a doggies, and Hanyuat later a later Yohani don't know. More Miziatat. Yeah, you get that leg out. I guess lazy do. Jotkadas, Pumaida, Nakomolagadat. Yeah, you get that leg out. Mavat to that. But sabiho you did don't know. And you out there, you get that leg out. Bumbanagadat. Dotka. What you go don't know. Bundat fully out. Mẹ jogo. Avastin fully mungadundundui. Azula got that. Azul Saliza. Magagi dundo. Yanoko dundo. Fully out. So I guess legend. Muy dundundui. Just to Muskogee do ya. Our elders back home at our grounds, they talk about Azul Saliza, which is here. Everything that was here, as you heard earlier, was carried to what is now Oklahoma. We still carry on those ways. We still carry it on. Sometimes it gets tough, but we think about the ones who were here, and it's not so tough as we think about how they had it. So we carry on our language, our tradition, and our ways. Like we said earlier, when the smoke cleared, they tried to do away with the Muskogee people. But as you can see, that didn't happen. So as you travel home, have safe travels. And Mado for everybody who was here today and online. Maka go in. Mado.